Welcome back into the Keys 411 show on the X 104.9 Key West. Listen, man.
I don't know, brother. I don't know, man. I think we found the next star that's going to replace Mr. Sweet G because
his mom needs intro music. 64
her
years here in the Keys.
Yeah,
Key
man.
West in particular.
No, for sure.
Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah, we're about to bore some people, I'm sure, with just some stuff that we're interested in. But for whatever reason, like I said, man, I love hearing people that have been here forever. And when I say forever, she's 64 years that she's been here because she was 72? 75 or something.
75.
Yeah, because she moved here when she was 9. 64, I believe. Whatever the math is on that. Either way,
saw Buffett in concert
years.
here.
Yeah.
Saw Buffett in concert here.
Cuban Missile Crisis.
Knew about the cops that robbed the bank.
In the 60s, apparently.
What
yeah.
kind?
No, I'm telling you, man.
That's a whole episode of something right there.
And it is, and that's why we got to capture some of this stuff. So we're going to definitely try to get her in front of the camera, right? And record her
I specifically asked her.
Yeah.
I said, hey, are there stories you can't tell us?
Yeah.
She said, I might be able to muster up a couple.
And I love those answers.
That's great.
But you know what was funny is that she said it with a smirk.
She did say it with a smirk, a beautiful smirk.
And I love that because there's so many people here that have those stories that they don't just go out and tell these stories, but if somebody's going to ask, they have a story.
They have a story.
And those ones, I'm sure, man, any story I've ever heard down here in the Keys, I've loved it. Not one has ever turned out to be a dull story. There's usually square groupers involved. There's usually like...
What are those?
You catch them off of the...
what kind of bait do you use for a square grouper?
Well, it depends, I guess, right?
GPS? Use a GPS.
Oh, gosh. No, could you imagine growing up here in, let's just say the 60s and 70s and some of the stuff that was going on, man? They were dropping bells, left and right, and people were, gaining what now is turned into their fortune. There's people that were part of the community, upstanding people that you get enough of them together and a couple square groupers
can't
fall
be
out
wrong.
of the sky.
We all can't be wrong.
Nope. And then it just, you pulled together as a community going, look, man, we're going to need to survive down here. So let's, look the other way and make this happen. It intrigues me because this is America. In any other place in America, it's not as bad in the sense of, it just seems like it's different, right? Like small town, okay, well, maybe I'm going down the wrong
Well,
track.
no, then 60s and 70s.
A lot of small towns are like this. But.
But 60s and 70s, this place was probably a lot like the Wild West was at the turn of the century, where it was so far away from so many other people, so many other eyeballs, so many other community standards, so to speak, like you're saying.
Right.
That the community standard was, let's just do what we got to do to get by.
Right.
And if it's catching square groupers, that's what we do.
I've heard.
I got no proof of it.
No, I've heard stories.
I've heard stories.
Law enforcement would help them clean up the smashed square grouper that fell from the sky. They're helping them pick it up, making sure that it gets to the destination correctly and stuff. And nowadays, of course, certain square groupers that fell out of the sky did affect a lot of lives and stuff. And I'm not advocating.
And Motorola came along and just screwed everything up.
Right.
Can't outrun Motorola.
Can't outrun a Motorola. But no, man, just some of the stuff. There's a couple marinas that I've been on here. There'd be a boat sitting in the corner that, all black with, 4 250s on it. And, you're like, why isn't anybody using that? They're like,
it's Knight Rider.
They already have used it. Right.
It's a Knight Rider boat.
Oh, one of those type of boats. Who's got the stories? Yeah, and the hardest part, I'm sure, is finding the people that are willing to tell the stories, right? Well, because most of these people are still living, right? But, hey, Billy got 4 square groupers, and now he owns, the biggest, tow company in town, or, the biggest restaurant here, and it's one of those things where I'm sure they got stories that why they're prosperous nowadays because of stories from the 70s and 80s.
Well, it's like in NASCAR. So in the old days in NASCAR, cheating was just part of the sport. It was if you could outwit the technicians. And one of the things with this guy Smokey Yunick out of Daytona was just amazing a race car builder or whatnot. But some of these guys like him One story is Darrell Waltrip had a crew chief that they put ball bearings in the frame, right, to make weight.
Okay.
And so when they get on the racetrack, after they made weight, they pull the little lever and all the ball bearings come off. Well, racetracks are slanted,
Slope, right?
so the ball bearings just go down to the infield.
Yeah.
Nobody's wiser. Nobody gets hurt.
Sure.
But you know where they put the hole? You ever notice on a race car on the left side and right side of the car there's a little arrow? If you look,
if I'm not mistaken, I do.
yeah. So there's a little arrow that if you don't know what that little arrow is for, that little arrow is to tell the jack man where to stick the jack to lift the car up evenly to get the whole side up.
Okay.
Guess where the hole was?
Conveniently.
Well, so the jack did also use that arrow, that spot to jack the car up to inspect. So if they put the jack there, is the hole visible? Nope.
Wow.
Same process down here.
Right.
The kind of stuff.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I get envious about that stuff because not that I'm a corrupt person in the sense, but it's the allure.
Or the old cat and mouse game.
Yeah, something. And then on top of that, right, tying it back in with the Daytona days, right, NASCAR back when I'm sure bootlegging and. Everything else that's gone on down
My grandfather raced on the beach at Daytona.
Gosh,
Webb Sr. did.
Man, I can only
50
imagine.
and 51.
I can only imagine.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to get up there. I haven't been to Daytona yet, man.
Yeah, so Florida's just been like off the chain.
Right,
forever.
Well, rightfully so, though, right? I mean, come on.
Well, it's kind of the California of the East, right?
No, right. You get the corridor for the bootlegging back in the day, the smuggling for the waterways and. The cultures, the mixed cultures that come from everywhere. And
reckon at some point in history there was a Kennedy running rum off the coast here going north.
I promise you, man. I mean, for us up in Marathon, one of the apartments I used to live in, right next door, basically in the next building over, Capone literally used to come in the speakeasy.
The 1470 address.
Yeah, 1470 overseas, man, and they're building a new building there now, but they tore down the old one. But back in the day, Capone used to hang out there and have a speakeasy that was literally in the back of the building that. It apparently was secret, man, and so did Hoffa.
Hoffa used to have coffee at I don't know if it was 7 Mile Grill then, but that's the story that you hear in Marathon is
apparently Hoffa's niece or great niece or whatever the case was, my neighbor before hurricane I think got her out, but Irma. But yeah, it was my neighbor, man, and she used to have these stories, man. And it was just one of those things where, you try to capture as many of those stories as you can. But could you imagine back in the day, man?
Well, you remember the gentleman we bought our houses off of told us the story of he come out one day and there was cops in the front yard, and then there was a boat in the backyard offloading bales onto Sunrise Island,
right?
And there you're in the middle of a Miami Vice bust,
right?
Yeah.
No,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and there's stories of our canal. We have kind of a larger canal than most others in Marathon.
If you go to Tiki Bar _Nation, you can see this canal, the interest of this canal.
And you and I both know we've heard stories that the reason why they built this canal so wide was so the plane, the seaplane, could come in after it's done its duties and turn that corner, because we have a corner for the canal. Turn that corner before any of the law enforcement could even see them.
That they were there.
That they were even there.
And then plop, plop, fizz.
Yeah.
And then they take back off.
Back out. Or some of the stories that we've heard from some of the local people where, they would be coming back from the Bahamas and being chased, and they would literally ditch their plane. They had so much money that they could just buy another plane.
It was cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper and
than doing jail time, bro. And that's one of those things, you just hear and you're like.
I don't remember that story.
Could you imagine the adrenaline?
Yes, I do remember that story.
The adrenaline going through your body, and the people that get off on that, that really thrive. And some of those stories that, we heard, it sounds like some of those guys, they really did. It was more of a game in a sense than it was.
Now we just live vicariously through Bruce Schmidt and all his.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that guy, man, Bruce definitely got stories.
He's got stories.
And hopefully that guy will get back on the mainland one day and we can get some from him, because
he's stuck in Costa Rica because of the COVID.
Right? And I don't know if that's a bad thing either, man. You know, being stuck.
I've
in
never. Have you heard him say, "Hey, somebody sent a rescue mission"? No, he's not sending about a rescue mission.
True that.
So he's probably just fine down there.
And every so often too, you know, I'm sure down there it's probably, you know, a little bit out of the ordinary. You know, it's still not third world, but at the same time, you know, it's still a little chaotic.
It's
down
probably a
there.
better world than here these days.
Right now, I would say that most likely it is with all the craziness that we're going through.